if the property is priced appropriately. And when a property is getting sold, even in a down market, if a property is priced well, there should probably be other offers that you're competing with, because that tells you that there is interest from the market and that it's not a complete dud. Keep in mind, what you should be concerned about as a buyer is what the market value is, not so much what the asking price is. Emotional buying, it's the number one reason. A good sales agent like myself will try to create that fear of missing out, the FOMO among the buyers. You need to translate and have that sales agent know, trust you, and feel confident that you're the best person to complete the transaction. That's how I've personally secured quite a number of properties over the years against strong competition, not always about price.
Welcome to Perth Property Insider, where you will learn how to grow your wealth and improve your life using Perth property. Our show is brought to you by Investors Edge Real Estate, the highly rated and award-winning property management, sales and buyers agency servicing the whole of Perth. Now, here's your host, Jared Mann.
G'day and welcome to another episode of Perth Property Insider. Today, I'm going to cover off why most property buyers overpay and how to avoid it. What prompted this is each weekend when I'm selling properties for an owner, I'm trying to get an emotional price and have buyers pay as much as possible. Classic case from this weekend, we've had 30 buyers through. We've got 10 that are making offers. I'm whipping everyone together. I'm getting people highly emotional. I don't ever get a good question from a buyer. I just feel like no one knows how to buy a property well. And that I've got one buyer's agent in the mix too. They're not really that much better than all the other buyers I've had through, in all honesty. And I think I'm in a unique position to take you behind the curtain and I guess show you how to avoid paying that emotional extra price. Because on the other hand, when we're representing a buyer and when we're not representing a seller, we only ever represent one or the other at a time. When we're representing a buyer on our buyer's agency side, we understand all these things that sales agents do and how to be more educated and informed going into the purchase so that we can set the parameters, know how the game is played, and make sure that we don't overpay and we're well and truly worth it to our client then as a buyer's agent, which is a big component of why people use us, so that they can have someone independent to hold the reins, keep them accountable, keep them independent, and not get too emotionally involved, because you've got that intermediary between you and the selling agent so that you can also make more rational decisions yourself. So that is the scene. Let's go through the three biggest reasons why buyers overpay, especially in this market when things are still a seller's market out there. In a buyer's market, if you're the only keen buyer that you get through a property, you've got all the negotiating power. At the moment, there's still typically 3 to 4 people that are making offers at the same time if the property is priced appropriately. And really at any time when a property is getting sold, even in a down market, if a property is priced well, there should probably be other offers that you're competing with, because that tells you that there is interest from the market and that it's not a complete dud. Sometimes the property can be way overpriced and that can be scaring other people off, and it could also represent an opportunity for you to still come in under the asking price but not have competition. And keep in mind, what you should really be concerned about as a buyer is what the market value is, not so much what the asking price is. So I get buyers all excited when they come to us and tell us about a purchase that they've just made. They might have got it 20k under asking price, but they've really just gone and paid market value for the property, and they think that they've got a bargain at 20k under or whatever the case may be. But what you need to look through to is what's market value, and I guess making your decision based on that. Now, there's nothing wrong with purchasing a property at market value. I much rather always go and purchase a great property and pay fair market value, because that's going to have a lot more potential, rather than one-off gain at the beginning and buying a dud property that doesn't have the potential, and then you're not riding the market, not going to be able to attract quality tenants, and you're not going to have that future growth compounding and adding value to you. So it is really important to be selecting the right property. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with paying fair market value for that, because at least you know other people are interested. You know if the market turns that you could still sell it and get a good price, because if people are interested now, they should be interested even if things cool off a bit. So let's go through the three biggest reasons buyers overpay. Emotional buying, it's the number one reason. And a good sales agent like myself will try to create that fear of missing out, the FOMO among the buyers. We usually condense the interest, get as many people in to the home open as possible. Once we get the first offer, we set a deadline, we spark interest among the other buyers, and a good agent will compete people off against each other and give them feedback as to whether they're going to miss out on the property, and that way keep pushing up to find a buyer's true best price. And it can be really hard when you fall in love with a property too. So I would be trying to objectively see if the property suits you. I would be asking better questions of the agent as to what sort of price you're going to need to be at. Do they have any other offers, of course, before you start getting stuck into it? We'll run through some other strategies in a minute for buying smarter, but that's really the number one thing, of getting those emotions all caught up, really wanting to make it yours, wanting to beat the competition, as some of the alpha males are like. I myself fall into that trap sometimes too when I'm buying properties. And especially it's hard if you've missed out on one or two and you've had offers close but not get over the line. You can come into the next situation then just being more pent up, more emotional than you might otherwise should be. And that's where the danger can come from overpaying. Now, when I say overpaying, I think it's okay if you find a place that you absolutely suits and you've got the context where you know how often they come up. It's okay to overpay by a little bit. But what we don't want to do is drastically overpay, which is what I very often get buyers to do when I'm the selling agent. That's my job. So we want to pay enough but to secure it without drastically overpaying. And ideally, you want to pay market value or as close to that as possible. So next big reason buyers overpay is a lack of local market knowledge or suburb level data. So people aren't trained sales agents. They're not trained buyers agents. They're not valuers. Many people don't even look at the sold property data to see where things are at. Many people aren't obviously speaking to real estate agents to find out what's under offer, as we do on our buyers agency side. And even when I'm coming to the market to represent a seller, I often call a sales agent with an under offer property and just have a chat to them to see if I can find out what it went for. And most agents will tell me in that situation. So looking at not just the sold data, but what's under offer and awaiting settlement, that's really key to see where the market's moving and what similar properties might have sold for and awaiting a settlement still. So they might not yet be on the public record, but can still be a really helpful, valid data point, because it's going to be much fresher and a more recent sale than something that has sold 3-4 months ago. So being familiar with that data is important, but also knowing that even within a suburb, there can be different pockets where the values are stronger than others. That's why on the buyers agency side, we're always looking for the trends within the data, and chatting to local sales agents as well to find out, is there certain areas that are better than others, what factors come into the pricing, and making sure that we take those things into account. What often happens where a buyer overpays is they might, for instance, be looking in one suburb, property comes up in their email alerts or appears in the surrounding suburb search results. They're going out of their area that they might have spent a month or two looking in to the neighbouring suburb, and that's where danger of overpaying can happen, because they're not as familiar with the good and bad pockets or the prices within that suburb, and it can really cause them to think that they're getting a good price but actually be overpaying by a lot, especially if there's negative factors that they're not aware of. And finally, the third biggest reason buyers overpay is poor negotiation tactics or pressure from agents. So that's the agent's job when we're representing the seller. We're trying to create that competition. We're trying to get everyone emotional, and don't ever blame a sales agent for that, because they're not there to represent you. They will also be much more open to giving you feedback if you ask the right questions. And I would try not to play into their games, but also appreciate if you get them on side, they can be your biggest advocate when putting your offer forward, because it's not always about price. It can be about how they perceive the strength of your situation to be. And that's why when a buyer's agent's representing you, they know that a buyer's agent never sort of will bother putting time in unless a buyer's pre-approved, ready to go, serious, and ready to pull the trigger. And that's a big part of the confidence that's carried over between a buyer's agent and a sales agent, and helping your offer potentially get chosen over others. So if you don't have the buyer's agent there, do that. You need to translate and have that sales agent know, like, and trust you, and feel confident that you're the best person to complete the transaction. And that's how I've personally secured quite a number of properties over the years against strong competition, not always about price. So that's the top three biggest reasons. We've got the emotional buying, we've got the lack of market knowledge, we've got the poor negotiation tactics, and, just overall, those are the three biggest things.
Just real quick before we continue on with the episode, are you getting my email updates yet? If you're not, you're missing out on our suburb intelligence reports, which we tailor and prepare for your individual suburbs of interest, showing advanced stats and insights. Must get onto those. And I also send out exclusive invitations to our events, including webinars, sundowners, and workshops. So if you're not getting those, head on over to investorsedge.com.au/join and make sure you're receiving my email updates.
So what does it look like to buy smart? Thinking into those three biggest reasons, what we want to do is make sure we're doing our due diligence before we even start the search. We want to look at the suburb level. We want to look back at all the sold properties. We want to look at, it helps if I find to pull them up on a map and see if there's definite areas or prices that are being factored in. I'd speak to the local agents, find out what's under offer. If you go around and look at a few properties, if you have been through a property, see if the agent can keep you in the loop with what it sells for. That way you're getting more up-to-date info. You really want to look through to and understand what is fair market value and know what you're going to walk away. What's your walk away figure? As I mentioned, it's okay to pay a little bit more for the right property. And I'd set that price ideally before going into the negotiation so you don't get all emotionally swept up. If you're a first home buyer, I find it could be helpful to involve your parents and, have someone else that's a third party to sort of hold you accountable to not drastically overpaying and getting completely wrapped up in it. I always used to find that my wife was good at being logical outside of the situation, whereas I'd sort of be wanting to win the competition and secure it at any price. So I think we worked well together in that sense. When I was younger, I used to have my mum and dad that I'd bounce stuff around with and just sort of say to them, hey, this is my intended walk-away price. Can you hold me accountable to that? So you're not just got yourself, you've got someone else helping then. And the biggest way to really get to be a local expert and know what prices are going for is you need to get stuck into the comparable sales. You want to know as well what the property is likely to rent for if you're an investor. You want to know what the zonings and codings are that factor into prices too. You want to ideally be looking at how long that property has been on the market for. What's the average selling time in the area? So pretty much across the board in Perth at the moment, if a property's been on the market more than a week, it's probably overpriced. Definitely after 2 weeks, the property's going stale, and the owner might then be a lot more negotiable and open to receiving lower offers. And you can highlight that to the selling agent, do it in a nice way. Say, look, you saw the lack of interest at the home open, if that's the case. You saw how long you've been on the market for. You don't mean to insult the seller, but you also think, with all due respect, that you're asking more than what the market is at the moment. Obviously, you can't say these things if it's first week and there's 30 people through and there's 10 offers on the table, case by case, guys. But what you can do is position your offer favourably, especially if the interest isn't as strong as the sales agent's expecting, and that can put you in the position of power to secure the property before they go and adjust price. They'd rather just, if they're going to adjust price anyway, and find the market, find the competition, and have demand for it, why not have your offer in before that happens? If the market's not responding the way they want, they're much more likely to then go with what they've got on the table from you. Now, how does a buyer's agent prevent you overpaying? I've alluded to this in little parts along the way, but we're always very led by the data and the local feedback from agents in the area as to what's under offer. We're really much looking to where is the price differentials in different pockets of the suburb. We're really looking through to how is the surrounding street at the area level. We want to look at and screen out the negatives that are going to impact price. So you don't want to be directly on bunting onto a school or directly onto a shopping centre. We don't want to have any other sort of major negatives around. We want the streetscape to all be ideally presenting pretty well. Certainly don't want any Homes West houses backing onto the property directly or affecting its perceived value when people come to look at it. Those are the sort of factors we're checking out at an area level. We want to look at what school catchments a property falls into, and is that going to be supportive of extra buyers wanting to come and live in the area to send their kids to that school. That's a great way of keeping buying future demand, because if the school's good, you're going to have a constant demand of families wanting to come into there too. Other factors, we obviously want to make sure that it's not in a flood-prone area. We want to make sure it's not in a bushfire-prone area, or at least factor that in. If a lot of the suburb is bushfire-prone anyway, then that's not. It's only if your particular area's property is, I guess, different to the majority. What we don't want to be buying is something that's different, bad, for the bad reasons. Also want to check out the coding, like I mentioned, see if it has development potential. A lot of people, where they go wrong is that they pay too much for development potential and they haven't yet properly worked out whether the property can be developed or not. I could do a whole episode on assessing development potential, and that might be a good one coming up to do with one of our other subdivision development experts. But you don't want to overpay for development potential if it can't be realised, and you want to make sure that it all stacks up. So that's probably the key things at the area level. Then when we're getting down to the specific property, I've done various episodes on appraising the price of an individual property. You really want to be trying to compare apples with apples as much as possible. So you want to be looking at, what's the living area, what's the age built, what's the condition, the specification, what's the orientation on the property, what's the layout like, what's the level of finish, are things in relatively new or well-maintained condition, or is there likely to be dollars needing to be spent that you need to factor in? How long can you live with the stuff if it's there, or, is it okay to rent out straight away and do some of these upgrades later, or is there money needed to be spent up front that you need to factor in? Oh boy, I just ran that off my head, a lot of things there, so hopefully they make sense and land for you. But some of the other factors are that bedroom sizes are important, especially depending on, the size of the house. So if you at least want the master bedroom to be a reasonable size. If you're buying a 3-bed, you want at least 2 of the bedrooms to be reasonable. Ideally, you'd like built-in robes. Ideally, you'd like an open plan living area, depending on what's typical for the area. Ideally, you'd like the kitchen to be decent and the bathroom to be decent. That's going to attract decent tenants if you're an investor. It's going to make your life so much better if you're a home buyer, or factor in renovating those at some stage. Ideally, you'd like an alfresco or covered back area. Ideally, you'd like a garage or an off-street parking that's covered and secure, ideally to keeping your cars and vehicles. And ideally, you'd like the landscaping and overall, outside areas to be, well maintained and not needing too much effort. So then obviously when you're looking into a strata property, there's a whole range of other things you need to check out with the body corporate and strata, meeting minutes, financials, the 10-year maintenance plan if there's more than 5 units in the group. And for any property, you really want to be looking at the title to make sure that there's no easement burdens on the property that are going to restrict building. If they're towards the back of the block, say within, the back 2 meters of the property, it's probably not going to be an issue. But if it runs, through the middle of the property or cuts out a big portion of it. You wouldn't want that. You'd want to just make sure that the restrictive covenants, if there are any, are reasonable. It's very normal for covenants to be on a title, especially because they've done it when an estate is created to sort of maintain, the similar look and feel throughout an estate. So nothing usually too much to be worried about there. Many of the covenants expire after a certain year too, so look for an expiry date in them if you're concerned at all. Other things on the title that might give you a bit of a key is if there's a caveat registered against it, it could show that the seller is in a bit of trouble and they've got debtors after them. And I'd also be going into the human side of this negotiation. So we want to find out, why is the owner selling? Why are they selling now? Do they need a quick settlement? What sort of deposit would be attractive to them? Do they need a longer settlement if they haven't found a property? So if you know that they're selling for a certain reason, then you can start to tailor the terms and conditions of the offer to suit them as well. And I think all of this, once you've got your sort of data and your pricing right in your head, once you've set your walk away price and told someone else about it, you can try to remove emotion from your negotiation. Then that's going to be a real key when using a buyer's agent. They're going to help you with all this. And what I'd also be trying to do, which we do, about 20% of our transactions are off market, where we're leveraging the relationship of the sales agents out there. We're getting off-market access or pre-market access. And then it's great if you don't have competition to worry about. It's just you versus can you find a price that's going to work for the seller and without having other people bidding against you and being competed off against you. So much harder still to do in a seller's market, much easier to buy off market in a more neutral or buyer's market. But it will start to happen more and more. And about 20% of what we're purchasing at the moment is still in that situation of off market. So we call it our edge network, where we've got buyer's agents that we swap off market deals around with. And we've also got sales agents that we've built up relationships with that either let us know before they're putting something on or let us know an owner that might look at selling if they received an offer. So our edge network's definitely great for getting access to some of those off-market deals. So finally, key takeaways. Research, don't go in blind, please. Have some discipline around your price that you're going to pay once you've done that research. Ask for help along the way. Get expert guidance that's going to save you thousands. If you are renting it out, get us involved as a property manager from the start too. Get that input on rentability, rental price. Consider using a buyer's agent. We can pay for ourselves so many ways over, not just in the price that we buy, but in the research that goes into a suburb that's most likely to outperform. And that's going to pay for us many times over if we get that right. And not only are we working on getting you a property for a reasonable price that is likely to outperform, we want it to not have any of those other major negatives that will come up in our due diligence. And we do what we call our trifecta review, where we look at the suburb selection, the area selection, and how it stacks up. And then we look at the property. Any red flags at any of those at that tri-level, those three levels, we would rule a property out or decide whether it could still work at a lesser price. So check out our buyer's agency if you are on the hunt and really want to leverage our local knowledge and experience. And if you are looking to sell and you really want to be using a sales agent that understands how to get that emotional price from buyers, and I can certainly help with giving you an appraisal on any of your properties and taking you through my many layered strategy to getting the best price when selling for clients too. Hope today's been valuable for you. If you've enjoyed it, like us and share, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. I really appreciate it. And any reviews on iTunes and Spotify are always appreciated. Help the show get found by more people. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Just a reminder, the information discussed in this podcast is general in nature. As we don't know your specific situation, you should always seek professional advice before taking any action. For free market reports on your suburbs of interest and other helpful resources to grow your wealth, make sure you join my property investor update at investorsedge.com.au/join. And finally, make sure you're a member of our Perth Property Investment Facebook group. to be part of the conversation with other like-minded investors, get help to your questions, and get a feel for what's going on out there in the market. I'll see you in the group.